Hello everyone and welcome back to another Essential Album video. This week we're taking a look at Ambient 1, Music for Airports by Brian Eno, first released in 1978. Couldn't find an exact date, and also I found a lot of conflicting dates saying it was either 1978 or 1979. I think on Discogs it said a lot of like the copyright on the album is 1978 on a lot of the different releases, but a lot of people probably didn't get the album until like March of 1979. So there's like a whole like year of it potentially coming out in 1978 and then potentially coming out in 1979. I just went with 1978 because that's what showed up on Apple Music as well as a few other places as well. Some notable tracks on this album. Well, actually, there's only 4 tracks, so all the tracks on this album are one of one, two of one of two, and two of two. So this is an ambient music album, as the title kind of implies. So Ambient 1, Music for Airports. And this was one of the very first ambient albums I listened to, I want to say a few years ago. Like, I really wasn't super into ambient music up until maybe just a few years ago, where I just wanted to, I just like did a Google search for like relaxing albums or and like things like that. I was experimenting with binaural beats as well, where it creates like these soundscapes, and it only really works with headphones in, because one ear has one frequency playing into it in one earphone, the other earphone has another frequency playing in it, and your brain can't differentiate between the two frequencies. So what it does is it only hears the difference. So if you have a beat or like a one frequency at 100 like hertz and one at 90, it won't hear 101 and 90 in the other. It'll just hear 10. Like the difference between 90 and 100, or 100 minus 90 would be a difference of 10. So that's the frequency that your brain hears, and you can use those kind of binaural beats to kind of achieve a lot of like effects. Like I usually use it to kind of just relax, and maybe sometimes like it puts you in a kind of like relaxed state depending on like what frequencies you're going with. There's a whole kind of like science behind it. But I was doing that at the time, and then was just looking up music that would be kind of similar, and this album here is one that showed up on a lot of my searches. So this is kind of the very first ambient album that I listened to. I've listened to a bunch of other ambient albums since then, and it's a really cool genre. Like it's kind of like there's some where it's a little bit more like upbeat, a little more relaxing. I think this is one of those examples. And then there's some other ambient artists that are like it's just like darker and more drone, like it's like drone music essentially. So there's a wide variety of different styles within the ambient music like genre. I remember listening to I think New Blue Sun last year by Andre 3000. That's up for an Grammy this year, and that is what I would consider to be an ambient album as well. But I have some notes here about this one. We're gonna get through those notes, and then we'll get through like the rest of the album and all that. So we just pull this up. All right, so let me see. Ambient 1, Music for Airports by Brian Eno, again released in March of 1978. This is his 6th studio album, and I think he had done one ambient album prior to this. I think it was Discrete Music, which I went back and listened to after listening to this one. And I think, though, this was the first one to really, his first ambient album to really get popular. So there's that. There's some quotes from Brian Eno about like the ambient music, and says it was done to quote induce calm and a space to think, as well as being as ignorable as it is interesting. So like a lot of stuff with ambient music is there's not really like your typical song structure. Like you don't have like a verse leading into a chorus or anything like that, or like bridges necessarily. A lot of times it's just kind of almost like white noise or background noise. I think that's kind of what leads or lends itself to be just relaxing, because it kind of reminds me of like just like leaving a fan on to just get that rhythmic sound to kind of like put you into a more like relaxed state, or a like I remember like having a fan when it would be like really hot, just having a fan on and have that sound of that fan just is very relaxing. So that this is kind of like the musical equivalent of that. This I consider this to, and I think a lot of people consider this to be kind of a gateway ambient album, kind of like the one. Like I said, it's the first ambient album that I listened to, and I think a lot of other people like they kind of fall into that same boat where this is they got into ambient music because of this album. So like I've listened to this, and then I've listened to a bunch of other ambient artists. I have like a list of a few of them that I really like. So like there's like Tim Hecker and Steve Roach. Ethel Cain does more kind of droning kind of music. Like I said, Andre 3000 did New Blue Sun, which falls into that same genre. And then I think it was like Jan Jelic, I think. Jelic. I'm probably mispronouncing the name. But he did one ambient record, and I think it was called like Social Engineering. And it was like ambient in style, but it had like voice messages and kind of like automated, like almost like AI generated, kind of like robocall kind of like voicemail messages that were all like phishing scams basically. Like I think they're like European. They're like, if you don't deposit this much money in this account by this day, we will do this. But it was done in a way where it was like it almost like droning as well. It was like a really interesting album. But back to this album in 2004. Rolling Stone kind of defined said it was the kind of the album that kind of defined the genre, that kind of ties into it being a gateway ambient album. And I think I think it was 2016, Pitchfork ranked this as their greatest ambient album of all time. I think there probably is better ambient albums out there, but I think they were putting a lot of weight on it to be because it was kind of like the first maybe like mainstream album that, or like mainstream ambient album that really started, that really kind of caught on. So they were probably doing that. Let's see. It was basically supposed to be designed to help alleviate the anxious energy of an airport terminal. Why it's called ambient for airports. And apparently, Brian Eno got into ambient music due to a car accident. I think in like the mid 70s, and he was in the hospital. And I think it was like raining, and his friend brought a I had to, I'll bring the quote up in a moment, but brought an album of music. I think it was all like harp music, and it was kind of balanced between the harp music as well as the ambient sound of like rain on the window or just rain in general, and it created this really interesting soundscape. So let me actually bring up the quote for that because it's kind of interesting. So let me see here. And his friend Judy Nylon is the one that brought the album into the like hospital that he was staying in. It says, "quote I put the harp music on and balanced it as best I could from where I stood. Uh, it said Eno caught on immediately to what I was doing and helped me balance the softness of the rain patter with the faint string sound of where he lay in the room. There was no quote ambient by mistakes." It says Eno related. They basically said the story in 2011. So like she brought this album in and like played it, and it just happened to the music on the album combined with like the rain made this very interesting like listening experience. And let's see here. Quote, yeah, so they basically like just created kind of a very like it basically created ambient music with just actual music and the rain effects. I think they call the actual recordings of like the environment, like field recordings. There's been a few ambient records I've listened to where people were like, I think like there was one, I forget the name of it, but it was I think Gardens. Let me actually just bring up if I can bring up my list. I should have had this up of all the albums I listened to last year. We can actually pull that up. Let me bring up my little spreadsheet here. But there was one from the 80s. I think it's on Bandcamp. I don't know if it's on streaming, but I ended up buying the album on Bandcamp because it was just really good. Spreadsheet from 2024. There we go. Let me see if I can find that. And I know it had Garden in the title, so let me just type in Garden and we can get to it. Okay, so yeah, the artist was Virginia Ashley, and her album was "From Gardens Where We Feel Secure" from 1983. Um, that one had like very soft music playing, but it also had just ambient sound of like nature and animals, and it kind of blended together to make this really interesting listening experience. So I think like them balancing the music against the field recording is what they call it, or the rain made kind of very similar kind of thing. Critics initially didn't really care for this album. I think it was just because it was such a new kind of thing at the time. But I definitely think they've kind of come around on it now. So I'm going to pull up the reviews for this particular album. All right, so we'll just start off here. So AllMusic has it at a 5 out of 5. Let's see, Mojo has it at a 4 out of 5. Pitchfork gave it a 9.2 out of 10 in 2004. And then in 2024, they went back and re-reviewed it and gave it a 10 out of 10. So 10 out of 10 from Pitchfork is like just an outstanding score. Rolling Stone in 2004 gave it a 4 out of 5. Rolling Stone Album Guide also a 4 out of 5. Slant Magazine has it at a 4 out of 5 as well. Spin Alternative Record Guide only has it at a 4 out of 10, and then Uncut has it at a 10 out of 10. Those were the reviews, and now onto the track listing. We kind of already got through them earlier. We'll just go through it really quickly. Total length of the album is about 42 minutes and 20 seconds, and it's only 4 tracks. So track 1 is just called 1 of 1 or 1-1, and that is acoustic and electric piano and synthesizer. Track 2 of 1, or just 2-1, is of vocals and synthesizer. It's very, very soft vocals on that one. So that's track 2. Track 3 is 1 of 2 or 1-2, which is vocals and an acoustic piano. And then track 2 of 2 or 2-2 is basically just synthesizer. So the synthesizer the entire time. So it's kind of, it doesn't really have its own kind of like style within the album. It kind of like the tracks do feel very distinctive from one another. I've listened to a bunch of other ambient albums where there is not a lot of difference between the tracks. Like when you go to a different track on this on Ambient for Airports, you definitely know you're in a different track from the one that you just finished. On a lot of other albums, they all kind of just blend together into like one kind of continuous piece. It's a little bit different on this one, where you can definitely tell the stylistic changes between the tracks. But this was definitely my gateway kind of album into ambient music, and I've gotten really into it lately. Listened to a bunch of it. I'll probably start somewhat soon getting into the 2024 wrap-up video, where it basically just goes through every album that I've listened to in 2024, and then we'll do like graphs and stuff. But you'll definitely see, I'll definitely mention the ambient albums in that series once I get to them. The first part of that series will probably be kind of boring. It'll just be me listing off every single album, and then we'll get into the kind of the details of like all the different genres and decades and things like that later on in that series. It won't be like a continual series. It'll just be like a bunch of it, like a mini series basically. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. So remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one.